Tonight we are going to mark the centenary of Britain's premier piano entertainer, Russ Conway, and also composer Trevor Stanford, more on that later, as he was born on the 2nd of September 1925, not that long ago, this September that is, in Bristol. Let's start by hearing about Russ's upbringing in his own words from this 1960 clip from Desert Island Discs.
Where do you get your musical talent from? Is there music in the family?
My mother was a very talented pianist.
Yes.
And,
professional?
No, only an amateur, and a lovely contralto voice she had. Mm-hmm. My father also used to sing.
When did you start taking music lessons?
I took one lesson, and when I was about 4 or 5, and after that played truant with the half-crown Mother used to give me weekly for the lesson. I used to run off to the pictures.
So you only had one piano lesson in your life?
To the best of my memory, yes.
Was it your ambition to be a musician very early on?
No, it never was. I used to hate the idea of practicing, coming home after having had the supposed music lesson and practicing, and I never had any ambitions to be a musician at all.
But you found you could play the piano by ear?
I found I could always
instinct.
play the piano quite naturally, yes.
What was your first job when you left school?
I worked in an office of my father's solicitor for a very short while, left at their request after messing up nearly everything from the ledgers to the lift.
Yes.
After that I went into a naval training school. My mother died, and finally went into the Merchant Navy at the age of about 16, and then the Royal Navy when I was 17. Forged my birth certificate and went in when I was 17.
This was during the war?
Yes.
In those days, while you were at sea, did you have any chance to play the piano?
Oh, many times, and especially in the Merchant Navy. On the large liners, there were nearly always a piano in the crew mess. I used to entertain the boys and myself.
There was Russ Conway talking to Roy Plomley in an excerpt from Desert Island Discs from 1960. Incidentally, because of the parlous state of the BBC archives, only a fragment survives of that episode of Desert Island Discs, as it does for other episodes, so it's not much you can hear from that episode. Russ lost the tip of one of his fingers in a bread slicer when he was in the Navy. In 1955, he was discharged and hospitalised due to a stomach ulcer. This and other illnesses would recur during his life. Following this, he went to London, where he was a relief pianist in a club. Now let's hear another clip from that 1960 Desert Island Discs, in which Russ describes how he got a recording contract.
How did it happen?
Walking along one of the main streets in town, I bumped into a friend of mine who knew I could play the piano, and he asked me if I'd deputise for a pianist in a club that weekend, which I did, for the high sum of 30 shillings, I think it was. And quite by accident, and I don't think Norman had ever been into the club before, and I know he's never been in since, in came Norman Newell, my present recording manager, and he listened to me play, and he said he thought I had an individual style of playing, and he helped me along in the business, helped me to get a job in a publishing house to learn the ins and outs of show business, and then when he took up recording again, I was his audition pianist, and then one day he came in with one particular tune which he thought would sound nice on what we hilariously call the honky-tonk piano. We recorded it, and it was issued, and it clicked. For better or for worse, it clicked.
One of the things that Norman Newell did for you was change your name.
Yes, he did, from Trevor Stanford to Russ Conway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, as you heard, Norman Newell, a giant of the music industry who worked with so many big names, suggested the name change from Trevor Stanford to Russ Conway. The Conway came from Steve Conway, a late great singer who sadly died young in the early 1950s, a British balladeer, and Russ from the Russ Henderson Steel Band. And if you haven't heard Steve Conway sing, I recommend you check him out. Russ started providing backing for artists such as Gracie Fields, Lita Rosa, Dorothy Squires, and Joan Regan, who he later knew quite well and I believe performed with. Now, we're coming into the era when people could buy both 78s and 45s, as you can see. And Russ's first solo single was in March 1957, Roll the Carpet Up, coupled with Robert Farnham's The Westminster Waltz. It was released on both vinyl 45, 7-inch, and shellac 78, 10-inch. So, as we are the CLPGS, and I think more people might have bought it at the time, let's hear the shellac 78, Roll the Carpet Up. the carpet up, Russ Conway, with accompaniment directed by Jeff Love, who was another frequent collaborator of Norman Newell, and I believe Russ as well. And Bill will show us the lovely Columbia sleeve, won't you, Bill?
Here it is. Here we are.
There you go, you might remember that lovely design. Roll the carpet up. So, Russ's first hit single, reaching the charts and the position of number 24, was released in November 1957, and it was Party Pops. This was a medley of old favourites in the style of Winifred Atwell and, of course, people like Charlie Kunz before. So a very popular formula, but Russ managed to get into the charts with it. So you may recognise some on this. In fact, I hope you recognise most of them. That was presumably the key to its popularity at the time, but it was songs that old and young would have recognised. So let's hear Russ Conway with Party Pops on 78. While Bill changes the record over and we can hear part two, I will reveal to you, I hope you recognised them all, When You're Smiling, I'm Looking Over a Four-Leaf Clover, When You Wore a Tulip and I Wore a Big Red Rose, and Row, 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 the latter of which I'm not so familiar with, but maybe people were in 1957. Let's hear part two of Party Pops. Party Pops Part 2. And that included, in case I needed to tell you, For Me and My Gal, Shine on Harvest Moon, By the Light of a Silvery Moon, and Side by Side. Songs which were about 30 years old, but no doubt were known to many people, and cannily released in time for Christmas parties. These medleys would be a mainstay in Russ Conway's output, and in November 1958, he had his first top 10 hit with his single, More Party Pops.
The original names.
And then, of course, the theme continued with Party Pops number 2, More Party Pops, More and More Party Pops, and Even More Party Pops. He also released singles playing medleys of Hits of the Day, the Piano Pop series, and show tunes medleys such as South Pacific Pops, amongst other themes, and I believe Bill even bought one of those at the time.
Oh, My Fair Lady.
There you go, yes. What better endorsement do you need?
I was very young at the time.
Have you still got it, Bill? Have you still got it? Have you still got
it? I quite like it.
on 78?
Yeah.
And you can see, a list of these up there, and Russ even went into Liverpool pops, bit of the Beatles, and swinging pops, bit of Hatch and Trent. And then he was also on the newfangled EP format. Well, it was only a few years old by then, but you can see some of them were specially themed, some of them were taken from his albums, but they were a similar kind of formula. And under the name of Trevor Stanford, he also composed, as we hear in this final excerpt from his 1960 Desert Island Discs.
Russ, had you done much composing before you came into the business full time?
Before I came into the business full-time, no, not a lot of composing. Before I started recording, I had written quite a few songs, which are probably lying on publishers' shelves all over the country.
Yeah.
One of them, which came off the shelf, was Side Saddle, but when it was originally written, it was called Come and Dance for a television show a few years ago. A gavotte, and a right old gavotte it was, too.
Well, Side Saddle became the most popular disc in the country.
It did, yes.
And that was followed by another one.
By Roulette, yes.
And then you had 3 discs among the 20 bestsellers at the same time.
I did. It was a great thrill. It really was.
So, yes, Ross's first number one in February 1959, at the height of the rock and roll era, was the classic Side Saddle. Side Saddle, which knocked the platters off number one and stayed there for 4 weeks. And I believe one of our esteemed members may have bought that when it came out, naming no names. Russ's second number one followed in May 1959 with another of his compositions, Roulette, deposing Elvis with A Fool Such As I. Russ was the UK's top-selling artist, becoming the first to win a silver disc when sales of Roulette topped 250,000. Further top 10 successes followed with China Tea at number 5 in August, Snow Coach at number 7, and more Party Pops at number 5, both in November 1959, and then Toy Balloons reaching number 7 in November 1961. He spent more than 83 weeks combined on the UK singles chart in 1959 alone. And there you can see some of the sheet music and now some of Russ's albums. By 1961, he had sold over 250,000 LPs, and in total, by the end of his career, he had sold 30 million records. Now, of course, as well as record formats changing, there was also television becoming quite a big thing at this time, with audiences skyrocketing, and Russ appeared on many TV entertainment shows, such as, you might recognise him, the Billy Costin Band Show. But here is a clip of Russ playing Mac the Knife on Big Night Out, I believe presented by Mike and Bernie Winters, from 22nd of February 1964. As you watch, you can note his famous smile and wink, coupled with his mastery of the keyboard. Mac the Knife, Russ Conway from Big Night Out in 1964. But his versatility extended beyond his honky-tonk style, as illustrated by this single from 1964, Concerto for Lovers, which he also composed. rather more sedate Russ Conway there, with accompaniment directed by Tony Osborne, the same year as the Big Night Out clip, Concerto for Lovers, one of his own compositions. You'll note that we've moved over to 45s. Russ actually has quite an important place in the history of the speeds, or the formats, as the last EMI 78 released was Russ playing Royal Event in 1960, a collector's item. Now, moving back to where we were, after leaving Columbia, Russ recorded for Les Reed's Chapter 1 label before moving to Pi. In March 1973, he released Life is Good, another Conway composition. Let's hear that now. Yep, the Pi label there, Russ Conway playing Life is Good, which he wrote with Mr. or Mrs. Percival, which we assume is Norman Percival, who arranged and conducted it. In the mid-1980s, Russ moved to the seaside, Eastbourne to be exact, but in 1989 he developed stomach cancer. However, he managed to overcome it, and this prompted him to found the Russ Conway Cancer Fund, which he worked tirelessly for. In September 2000, in celebration of his 75th birthday, he performed in concert to a packed Congress Theatre in Eastbourne. His publicist, John Lloyd, recalled, Conway sold out the theatre, and hundreds were queuing outside in the hope of getting returns. That was to be his last concert and his last performance. In total, Russ released over 70 singles, which included 2 number ones, 7 top 10s, and 20 chart hits in total between 1957 and 1963. He died on the 16th of November 2000 in his sleep at Eastbourne District Hospital, where he had been suffering from a recurrence of stomach cancer. So I hope you've enjoyed our tribute to Russ, marking his centenary, and you'll realise what a fine piano player he was, who shifted quite a lot of shellac, vinyl, and all the other formats, even CDs, over many decades. Thank you, Russ. Thank you to Bill and Tom, and thank you to Ian for his help with this presentation. And most importantly, thank you, Russ, aka Trevor Stanford.
Thank you, Theo, very, very much.